Hey everybody, Dave Cummings here from PLNU, and I want to take a few minutes to go through our syllabus for BIO3015 microbiology. I know you guys are all experienced juniors and seniors. You know how to read a syllabus, but I want to highlight just a few things. Make sure nothing slips through the cracks. There are no surprises for you. So you know our meeting day and time. That if we were in person, how we would and when we would be meeting. We're going to see that what we'll do is on Mondays, all Mondays except for the very first Monday, will be an optional office hours where you can come in and just talk about everything we're doing and ask questions. I can talk through topics with you, etc. The first Monday on the 17th is going to be required, so make a note of that. Monday the 17th, first day of class is at 11 a.m. I want you to log into Zoom. The links are on Canvas, and there's a separate video for Canvas, and we'll talk and give you a chance to ask all your questions then. Make a note that your final exam is on December 4th. I believe that's the Friday. It is. That's the Friday of finals week at 10:30 a.m. We will sort that out and talk about more details then, but it will actually be during that window. So schedule that in, block it out, don't let anything else get in the way. Here's my email address, though I think you guys all know how to get a hold of me. There's no location for office hours, so really the office hours will come in two forms. These Monday sessions at 11 a.m. and then there's a link at the bottom of every email I send you, and you can also find that link on Canvas for seeing other available slots on my calendar and signing up for those slots. Please give me at least 24 hours notice, right? Don't at 12:45 sign up for a 1 o'clock slot, because I will look at these things usually the night before and plan my schedule at work or working based on who has signed up by then. So if you sign up at the last second, I can't promise I'm going to be available. So do your best to sign up, giving me at least 24 hours notice. So here's our group office hours, all optional except for the first Monday on the 17th. And here's a link there for the one-on-one office hours. You can also find that link on Canvas. You can find that link at the bottom of my emails, trying to make it super easy if you want to track me down and do some one-on-one office hours work together. Okay, you know the mission of the university. Let's look briefly at the course description. Big picture, right? Why are we taking this class? In-depth exploration of the world of microscopic organisms, including diversity, physiology, biochemistry, and ecology. Emphasis is going to be on prokaryotes and even more emphasis on the bacteria. That will be 90% of the whole course. There will be some discussion of the other prokaryotes, the archaea, and brief introduction to some of the microscopic eukaryotes and to the viruses, though we just don't have time to go into great depth into those forms of microorganisms. So in many cases, this is a bacteriology course. In many cases, in many ways, it's a bacteriology course, and we'll touch on some of the other microorganisms a little bit as well. You have to have had cell biome, biochem, and genetics, and I'm pretty certain all of you have gotten to that point. And then learning outcomes. Primary objective, to get you familiar with the world of microorganisms with an emphasis on the domain bacteria. We're going to start with essentially fundamental cell biology and biochemistry of prokaryotes. So their architecture, their growth, and their metabolism, and then focus discussions on medical microbiology and immunology. Some specific outcomes, things I'm really hoping that you will walk away with and hold on to as you go on to your job, grad school, med school, whatever it is you have planned. Be able to describe the physical architecture and physiology of bacteria, especially as compared to viruses and eukaryotic cells. We're going to talk a lot about bacterial disease, the way antibiotics work, and the way that bacteria resist antibiotics. Probably, arguably, the most applied topic within the area of microbiology. I want you to be able to paraphrase. In other words, give back in your own words, be able to describe, explain, teach the mechanisms of both the innate and the adaptive immune system. We'll spend a couple weeks on those. I know many of you will go on to take Dr. Page's upper division immunology, and this will be a great foundation for that. And if you don't do that, this will be the one and only exposure you get to the immune system, so learn it well. And then 3 and 4 come out of lab. We're going to analyze the methods and results reported in primary research literature in microbiology. And we'll talk more about lab when I show you the lab Canvas page in a separate video, and I'll talk more about how lab is going to be structured. And then evaluating the validity of authors' main arguments. We're going to look at their main arguments and really take a critical approach. Do the data really support this? Are the methods most appropriate for the questions they're asking, etc. Okay, what books do you need? We've talked a little about this. Let's make sure you've got them. You need Brock Biology of Microorganisms. The page numbers I'm referencing, etc., are coming out of the 15th edition. If you have an older edition, it's totally fine with me as long as you can find the content and the topics in order to be able to study them. If you get the e-text, that's great. It comes with study tools. You don't have to purchase access. So if you just have a hard copy of the textbook, that's totally fine. You don't then have to add like Mastering Microbiology, Digital Access, anything like that. But if you buy the e-text, you get the mastering, the study tools, etc. I think it's a great deal, and I sent you guys some registration instructions for getting that. Two more things to purchase: Sanford Guide to Antimicrobial Therapy. This is kind of the standard in the clinical setting for determining what antibiotics are going to be used against what types of infections. And I was able to finagle a 40% discount for you guys for the app version of this. It's not expensive. I think it's $30 to begin with, and then it's a 40% discount. So whatever that turns out to be, $17, $18, something like that. And then this booklet called Reading Primary Literature by Chris Gillen. This is going to be a big part of lab. This is going to introduce you to a lot of the concepts of what you can do with each of the sections of a journal article. And so especially in the first few weeks of lab, we're going to lean heavily on this Gillen book. So make sure you've got this one early. The Sanford Guide is a little less of a panic because it'll be a few weeks into the semester before we actually access that. So if money's tight, get Brock and get Gillen, and you can get Sanford Guide a few weeks down the road, although that's probably the cheapest thing on here. Credit hour information, right? You can see where all the hours are coming from based on my estimates. Assessment and grading, here's what everybody's interested in, right? 680 total points, 550 from lecture, 130 in lab. You've got 4 exams, all worth 100 points each. You'll have some cumulative questions on exams 2 and 3. Exam 4 is half cumulative. Half new material, which will all be the immune system, and half old material from the rest of the semester. You just can't cram, memorize, and then ditch it all from your brain. You've got to hold on to this stuff, and hopefully you've seen that as upper division students. You know how that works, so make sure you're paying close attention to really learning the content and holding on to the content and letting it permeate the way you think about science. Exam dates are firm. If you've got some kind of legit conflict, contact me well in advance and we can talk about that. Wednesdays. Okay, so we've got our optional synchronous Mondays that are office hours and required synchronous Wednesdays that are class time. And I have activities planned for you guys. I'll have you in breakout rooms on Zoom. And I've already set up those breakout rooms ahead of time. So I'll do a little intro to the topic, answer group questions, etc. Send you into your breakout rooms, and you guys will have projects, essentially, study-based projects for you to be working on your groups, and I'll be bouncing around in the groups, answering questions, etc., just as if we were in class. I do that a lot in my classes where I break you out into groups. You're working on something and I'm just wandering around the room. This is the digital version of that, and so you'll have lots of time to ask questions during those. Now, I do take roll, and attendance is required, so do your absolute best to make it to these, and they are really designed to help you learn this content better than you can on your own. So please make this a priority, and that'll be every Wednesday at 11. Lab experience. I'm going to talk about lab in detail when I talk in a separate video on the Canvas page for the lab, and we'll look at how lab is organized and structured and what my expectations are there for you. But understand that it's all online. There's nothing to purchase except that Gillen booklet. All the journal articles we're going to read are available free on the internet, and so I've provided links to all those articles as we work through them. Grade scale is probably very similar to what you've seen elsewhere, so check that out. Incomplete and late assignments. Because we're online, there are still due dates, right? It's not like everything's a free-for-all. You just turn in stuff whenever you feel like it. So you've got to stick to these due dates. In lecture, there's far fewer due dates, right? Lecture is really geared towards let's just dive in and learn this stuff together. Lab, I'm really staging you through the learning process of how to really dive deep into a microbiology paper. And so in lab, there are a lot of due dates for very short assignments. You got to stay on top of it. We'll talk about that in the lab canvas. Stay on top of it, right? Things that are late or don't get turned in at all or get turned in partially, whatever, you're going to pay the price in terms of points. So please stay on top of it and you're going to do just fine in there. Copyright policy, right? Everything that I'm giving you, all the documents, etc., like for lab, for example, are all legitimately copyrighted in terms of our ability to use them. Academic honesty policy, you just, no cheating. It's more tempting even online, so just don't go there. If it turns out people are cheating, we'll have to deal with it the same way that we would if we were in class together, and it doesn't end well, so just don't go there. Do the best you can and earn the grade that is all based entirely on your effort and your brain, and be happy and proud of that. Academic accommodations, if you need accommodations, go through the DRC, you know how that works, and then they give me recommendations for how to best accommodate you. Attendance, participation, right? Got to be there. Spiritual care, it's a little trickier. What I normally do in class is start each class with a passage of scripture and maybe a thought question or two. I'm going to have to figure out how to do this in a digital format. So just know that I really do care about you guys spiritually. It's more important than microbiology, right? And your degree in college. Ultimately, if you have things you want to talk about, please reach out to me, and I'm going to find some format that works for us to try engaging and encouraging you guys spiritually throughout the whole semester. Technology, can't do online without it. Format for each week, this is just a reminder of what we've talked about. The Monday live office hours that are optional. That says 12:15. I'm going to change that. That's actually 11. Sorry about that. That's one of my other classes here. I must have copied and pasted. And then your Wednesday live classes at 11 o'clock. And Friday is going to be various things, but I don't think I have any Fridays where we're synchronous, where you have to be scheduled at a certain time. It's just you doing the work. And a lot of this is going to be on you to step up and do the work. Topics and schedule. I hope you'll print this page and pin it up on a corkboard so you can, it's like a map, you can see where we are at all times. Everything is in 2-week chunks. It just worked out really nicely that way for me. So the first 2 weeks, we're looking at microbial architecture, viruses, the various eukaryotes, and then we'll get into the bacteria and archaea. The next 2 weeks, 3 and 4, we're going to get into bacterial growth. We're starting to really hone in on the bacteria. How do they grow? What's binary fission all about? What is batch culture versus continuous culture? Really important concept all about. What environmental factors influence the ability of bacteria to grow? And then what are these things called biofilms that we keep hearing about? It turns out it's their favorite way to grow. And so I want to make sure that you guys understand how biofilms work. And then at that point, we'll pause and take exam 1. These are reading guides up here. These reading guides can be found in Canvas, and I'll show you those on the Canvas video. You guys know how it is in a given chapter that's assigned. Your teachers don't expect you to read every single section. There are some sections that aren't as important for our goals, etc. And these reading guides are essentially checklists of the content in the book that you really have to know. Okay, so what you want to do is have those reading guides in front of you when you have your textbook out and pay close attention and work your way through all of the assigned reading. So there are reading guides for every single chapter, and then there are video lectures that cover all of the topics and are intended to support the reading. The reading we could consider to be information source number 1, and these videos are me talking to you, trying to support you as you learn those concepts. You'll notice some say BIO3015 because I've got a whole lot more videos prepared for that class over the years, and so I've stolen some videos from that class that'll work really nicely in certain situations for you guys as well. So just understand that that's why that is. That's not a typo. And then we'll go through a variety of other topics. Energy metabolism, horizontal gene transfer, antibiotics and resistance. This is where you've got to have your Sanford guide by this point. So by the beginning of October, you want to have that in hand. Infection and virulence factors. In other words, how bacteria actually cause disease. And then we'll get into the immune response, both innate and adaptive immunity. And I've set aside the last couple of weeks to not introduce new content, but to give you time to really work hard on the immune response and to review the rest of the semester. And I'll have some intentional steps structured in to help you guys do that. that is your syllabus for fall of 2020 Bio 3015. If you have questions, let me know. I will see you guys very soon on Zoom.